back everybody. So today we're going to be doing some work on the Porsche again, the wide body. We've made real nice progress with the other side, largely getting it all finished up, and the majority of the planish work is finished. We just need to take out a few more little kind of bumps and spots and things that just aren't quite right. So I thought I'd show you what we're doing on this side. At some point in its history, somebody's put these wide arches onto it, and all they've done is overlay it onto what was there originally, which is not really great. You can see all of the spot welds all the way up around here, so it's not been continuously welded, so it's always going to attract moisture. So what we're going to be doing is finding what kind of an overlap between these two pieces of material is. The other side was around 1/2 inch, and to be fair, it feels very much similar on this side. So what we'll end up doing is cutting this, so the actual wide arch section will be cutting just off the tack lines all the way up round here, so we can free those off from one another, clean off the tacks that are all on it and all the other crap and rubbish and all the filler that's still stuck in here. There's about 1/4 inch of filler over the top of this. So we're going to be taking that back and then laying those two pieces of material back together so we can get a really nice clean butt weld right the way over it. Then we can do, well, we'll get it fully welded, and then there'll be a lot of shrinking and stretching and blanish work, getting it all back into the shape that it needs to be. Because I mean, at the minute you can see that it comes up and then it dips down again and then it's up again, so we're ending up with all these kind of W shapes in the material, and it needs to flow really nicely. You know, this is kind of a key feature of this sort of car, is that it has the wide body. It's got to flow with one another, it's got to look right, and it's happened all the way up round here. I don't know, I don't want to force the cameraman to trip over stuff, but it continues down here into, there's a cooling vent. Oh, he's climbing everybody, there we go, and continues into a cooling vent on this side, which obviously as you're driving you get the wind come down here, and that will get fed into your into your brake discs on this side, and as well as the cylinder head for the engine. So all of these will be doing the same process of what I've said. We'll be cutting through here, taking off all of these horrible tack marks and bringing it all back so it all looks like one solid panel. That's the plan. So let's give it a go. after a couple of hours of f***ing around and cutting stuff and several small fires, we've got to a point where the outer wing, or rather the wide body section of the wing, is tacked in a way where once we welded it, we should be able to planish the area where the welds are and make a much nicer finish of it than what it was before. So we haven't got that nasty overlap. The piece that we've actually cut out, that's been removed and thrown into various places around the workshop. So the next steps are to get it welded. We're going to do probably around kind of 2 inch at a time, all in various places, and just kind of keep looping round so as we don't create too much heat all in one area. It's not too much of a problem if it does get a little bit, well, it's unavoidable that we're going to get a bit of warping on this, but just based off the sheer size of the weld, I mean, we've got nigh on 4.5, maybe even 5 feet of weld in total over the whole lot. So it's going to warp, but the nice thing about it is because we're dealing with these lovely shapes and lovely curves, it does make it a little bit easier when it comes to planish it out. It makes getting the shape back to where it wants to be easier, or rather it's more sympathetic, I want to say. If you were doing a completely flat panel and you were putting a weld on it this sort of size, there's no hope you get it to look how you want it to. Not without a huge amount of shrinking, stretching, shrinking discs, heating, cooling, all sorts of stuff. It'd just be a nightmare. So next step is going to get some weld around it, and we're going to rough grind it, and hopefully we can get a full rough grind on it today, and then that's probably going to be about it for today, and we'll revisit it tomorrow and carry on from there. So we've got it welded out, didn't take too long. What was that, about half hour, something like that. Took it nice and steady, only blew through in a couple of places, which I'm quite pleased with. Like I say, it's only in the bits where the gap is a little bit kind of, where if the gap's sort of a mil or so, then you've got to pace yourself and tack it and then move and tack it and move. Whereas the other bits where, like here and such, where I've got a real nice close fit on, you can just get a nice steady run across it. You've got to move at a fair pace, but you can get a nice steady run across it. And then there's these bits here, which hopefully will be shown a bit earlier, where there was spot welds done on it, which I would imagine they were probably put on and spot welded on first to get everything in position, and then they went round this edge tacking it all in. That's what I think. So what we've got now is a rather rough looking end of a copper hide hammer, and I'm going to put this on the back side of where those holes are, and it just allows me to fill that up with weld without sending too much material onto the back side of the wing. So we're going to get that done, and then we're going to be ready for a rough grind. Right, so this one here, I've just done those couple back there, and they went okay, so I'm just going to plonk this up here. This one's a little bit tighter because the inner shape on the rear of the car follows its way right up round it, so I'm just poking it up there. So I don't know whether the camera picks it up, but it's just behind that hole now. So I'm going to hold that with my hand, get in position, and then get some weld around it. Oh. So it's quite helpful because it acts as a bit of a heat sink as well. There we go. All we've done there is just give it a real rough grind, just to take the majority of the material of the weld that's gone on back off, essentially. Because now what we're going to do is you'll probably see it, whether the camera angle or anything like that shows it for you, where the weld is. Obviously when it pulls in like that. So all of this is gone concave, which isn't the end of the world, just the way it is. It's just what happens when you're welding on sheet metal and things like that. The nice thing about this is we can get to the back side of it near enough the whole way around, so there's no real issues there. So what we'll end up doing is the next thing we're going to do is get a wire wheel onto the grinder, clean off all the kind of crap and bits and bobs of weld that's poked through from the other side and any kind of under seal or bits of wire or anything like that. That's all going to come off, and then we can work the material this way against the dolly and probably end up working it back the other way. So we'll bring it up this way, clean out the toes and everything around the welds and things like that, just make sure that it's a nice uniform piece of material, and then depending on how much stretch we get into the material at that point, we'll have to then heat shrink it down or use a shrinking disc or anything like that, and just keep working it by hand until we're happy with it, and then DA and send it back to the paint shop, and yeah, we'll go from there. But I think that's going to be a task for tomorrow because we're all hungry and tired, so we're done.